Tel Aviv is getting wrecked as Iran continues to expose the Iron Dome and batter Israel. Now Zionists are melting down because one of the structures that was damaged during the Iran strike was an Israeli hospital. Now Zionists are demanding the world to condemn Iran for striking a hospital and violating international law.
When we went out to this war, we knew we were dealing with Nazis, but now the whole world sees that these Nazis are launching at a hospital to harm people, the elderly, the sick, and the helpless.
Are these people for real right now? Are Israelis really gonna sit here and pretend that we didn't see them in live time completely destroy the medical infrastructure of Gaza? We saw live footage of Palestinians being burnt alive in their hospital beds as Israel destroyed 35 hospitals in the Gaza Strip. Comparing what Iran did to Israel is extremely fucked up, actually, especially considering Iran didn't target the hospital. The hospital was damaged because of the shockwaves of the Iranian strike. So what was Iran targeting? Well, it was targeting a military base that Israel put right next to a hospital. So essentially, Israel is using human shields, using a hospital in order to protect the military installations, the same thing they falsely accused Hamas of doing. So Iran didn't even target a hospital, but even if they did, it wouldn't even be close to the sins that Israel committed against the Gaza health community. Israel has been actively kidnapping Palestinian doctors, including the director of Al-Shifa Hospital, and they've been torturing them to death. Dies in custody is a very weird way to report on a state torturing someone to death. So I don't want to hear a word from Zionists about Iran breaking international law. The United States and Israel forever redefined the rules of war by ripping up international law, and humanity should never forgive them for it.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? We have a special one for you today. In a time where a lot of people are celebrating Israel getting wrecked. This is a great time for us to debut something I've been working on for a while. I did shows with our friend, our brother, Nico House. He's an honorary RBN member. And I had David on from West Africa Weekly, who also released amazing coverage on Hotspot with us. So we decided, let's get together. Let's do a Hotspot live stream. We're going to call this, I'm not good at coming up with names. So I was like, we just going to call this the Hotspot Brothers Live, I guess. What's popping, Nico and David? I didn't know what to call it.
I mean, the spot is hot. I don't know if you need much else, man. It's good to see y'all boys.
Yeah, what's popping? There's much to discuss. I gotta give you guys thoughts. I will start with David because I saw this earlier today. We're gonna start here. I think this is funny because you have a mass exodus of Israelis that are fleeing the state, and this is something that I've been talking about for a very long time. Look, mass exodus of Israeli settlers across the Egyptian border. Isn't this interesting? Because you would think that these people who considered Israel their holy land, isn't it interesting that they have no attachment to this land, they're willing to leave? Why do you guys think that is? They deucing out because they are getting fucking trounced. So I'm gonna play this video and I want you guys to respond because now you have those Israelis that are fleeing on foot to Egypt. But Israel is blocking flight for international Jews who use the right to return because they are using them as human shields. That's how badly they're getting hammered. So we'll start with David. But I'm going to play this video because right now everyone in Tel Aviv is absolutely panicking because they realize they're not immortal.
Donald Trump, mate, I'm stranded in Tel Aviv and we need your help. I've got hundreds of British Jews here and one very tall, very blonde Gentile who are stuck in Tel Aviv because of the useless UK Foreign Office, who have just told us to walk back to Egypt. Yet, after 3,000 years, they want us to do the full exodus in reverse, through the desert in June, no Moses, no map, no air conditioning. David Lammy reckons it's character building. I reckon it's a complete joke. So Donald,
I thought you was attached to the land of Israel. Isn't that your holy land? Why are you begging another government to pick you up? You guys see how invested they are? I'm going to let it finish, now pass to David.
I'm asking you directly. Send the Trump plane or even Air Force One. I heard it's about to be retired anyway, so why not go out in style? Flying to Tel Aviv, scoop us up, you'll be a hero. And I promise you, every single passenger will be wearing a bright red MAGA hat. That's right, make England great again. Help us, Donald, get us home. And if you do, I will personally campaign to rename Heathrow Trump International, Terminal MAGA. Cheers, mate.
Imagine having this little shame. I'll pass it Dave first. Nico,
that's
David, what you got to say?
I mean, I just think it's really interesting that the people who supposedly crossed Egypt all those years ago apparently need air conditioning to do so. I'd imagine the Jews in the time of Moses wouldn't have made that trip if they didn't have air conditioning. Very interesting. But again, it goes to the heart of the issue, which of course is that these are not people who are native to the land, right? These are colonizers. These are settlers. These are, at risk of offending, whoever might be offended in the audience. These are white peopling. That's literally what it is.
White peopling.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So like it's very difficult to watch this as an African and take it seriously. I just can't. It's pathetic.
Yeah, everyone knows if you want your feelings to be protected, RBN is not the spot, especially when we're doing the Hotspot live. Nico, what's your reaction to that?
Bruh. I don't even know. I honestly don't even know where to start. The fact that he's appealing to Trump instead of Starmer is weird, right? And nobody finds that weird. Like, that's already one weird thing. The fact that they're actually being allowed to cross freely when we know Gazans were not allowed to cross freely like that, right? Like, we just watched. I was in Egypt. One of the while I was helping to put together aid for the Palestinians, one of the biggest issues that we had was that the refugees that were trying to get through were not being allowed through. And the Egyptian government was actually trying to charge for every Palestinian that came through. And these people just walking casually. And then the fact that he's giving his entire speech about being in, Israel after 3,000 years, bro, your accent does not sound like you've been in Palestine for 3,000 years. It's not like you just got there yesterday, actually, from the UK, actually. Exactly. Like, why? It's bizarre to me, the level of entitlement. Like, come out here with your plane. And at first I thought it was satirical. And then by the end of it, I realized, oh no, he actually feels entitled to Air Force One. He believes that Donald Trump is going to watch his video and he's going to fly out there with Air Force One. He's like, and I'll campaign for you to, what? Bro, who are you? But it's a level of entitlement. And it's the fact that, like, let me just say once again, shout out to my Palestinian brothers and sisters, because when they said that's their land, they meant that shit. Yeah. They are willing to literally die on that land. They will not leave their homes because they know that there's a bomb about to be dropped on their head. They will not leave their homes. And the moment there is a threat, the first time there's a legitimate threat to Israelis, deuces.
Have you seen
waving their Israeli flags as they're entering the airport of another European nation? Like, why aren't you back at home? That's your land, right? Fight for it.
Yeah, and the thing is, Nico, have you seen the offers? David, have you guys seen the offers that the Palestinians have gotten to leave the land, to ethnically cleanse themselves? I seen an offer that was given to the Palestinian people that if they flee their land, they will give them housing for a year in Egypt. They get employment opportunities. There was countries in Europe that was offering refuge, and then every time they was giving these offers, the Palestinians was like, "No, we good, bro. We'd rather fight for our homeland." And meanwhile, the Israelis are like rats, like they are. But go ahead, Nico.
No, I was just saying, because the moment they leave, they know Israel will never give that land back.
Yep. That's exactly why it's very smart for them, obviously, to fight for the land. While Israel is a fake country who can't even defend itself. There's Israelis, and there's a reason why they do make that video. Do you guys think Donald Trump is going to watch that video? Of course not. That is to sell the war to MAGA. That is to sell the war to Americans so Americans can support the struggle of the Israelis. There's been countless videos of these Israelis calling for America to come in and get involved. This is a country that cannot utterly defend itself without outside help. This is the definition of a fake country. But if you guys think that's all, trust me, I could do a 1 hour stream just on Israeli tears because these people are soft. They haven't been through a fraction of a fraction of a fraction what the Palestinian people are doing. And Iran is in a great point right now because they can sit back and just break the Israeli people's will and their spirit. The Iranian people, they're fighting for their existence, their pride, their culture, their heritage. Meanwhile, these Zionists, they're having a full-fledged meltdown. The first time they're fighting a war that not against women and children.
It ain't even been a week. It hasn't even been a week, yo. Like when you really think Palestinians have been going through this for what, almost
decades,
almost 2 years, right? Or is it a year? It'll be almost 2 years, right? If I'm not mistaken. And it'll be almost 2 years, 2023. And they gone through it without Iran purposely attacking civilians. They've gone through this for a week, and these motherfuckers is just peace. We love Israel. Yeah, give us our land back. Oh, you gonna fight for it? Whoa, I gotta fight for it. Y'all can't just like do that thing where y'all put a, take a pen and a piece of paper and give it to me again. Y'all can't just do that. No, you actually got to fight for it. I mean, since you guys wanted to start this goddamn war, y'all were cheering for this, right? Israelis have been cheering for war against Iran. Y'all say that y'all are doing this for the entire world. That's what y'all keep saying all over social media. Okay, cool. If y'all doing it for the whole world, just stand on business. Fight. Fight. Yeah. No, the moment y'all realize, what Israelis really learning is the difference between fighting some militia who are basically equipped with, secondhand armaments, some grit and ideology is not the same as fighting a country with a military. Y'all have never fought a fucking army before. Y'all have never fought a real military. And the first time y'all do in your history, y'all like, oh, that's what it's just like. No, we out. That wasn't part of the deal. That's basically what's happening.
Look at this video.
Please, I beg you, stop this. Stop the war. Iran, we don't want more blood. Please,
now you don't want blood.
I beg you, stop this. Stop the war. Iran, we don't want more blood.
Who is he? Hold up. Who did he ask to stop? He said begging who? Who's begging in the beginning?
Can I just say? Look, far from it. I'm not trying to suggest that. Hey, I want to see bloodshed. I want to see people die. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, I do think that outbursts like this make it even more important for Iran to not let off.
Yeah,
the reason I say that is I think there's this assumption that somehow the pain or the tears or the experiences of an Israeli are somehow worth more than those of a Palestinian or anyone else. And I think that if Iran were to let up now, that will somehow strengthen that perception that somehow it's more important when it happens to this group of people than when it happens to that group of people. No, I don't think so. I think they need, as you said, they haven't yet gone through a fraction of what the Palestinians go through. And just to follow on from what Nick was saying, it's not actually been 2 years. It's been over 70 years that things like this have been happening. What has happened over the past 2 years is that the amount of coverage has been unprecedented. But they've been doing these things for decades. They've been shooting kids at checkpoints for decades. They've been randomly carrying out illegal airstrikes and murdering whole buildings full of people for decades. I grew up watching these things. It's not new. They've been doing it for decades, and absolutely nobody in Israel had a problem with it. It was perfectly fine. It was Tuesday. So now that it's happening to them, I feel like, I'm sorry to say this, and I'm sorry if there's any Israelis who are watching who are going to say that I'm anti-Semitic, then I'm going to throw the racism Uno card back at you and tell you I'm negrophobic, since that's the clown world that we live in. I think it's important that there must be a balance of experiences. People, I think, need to understand what the other side goes through, so that the next time you're in a position of power, you will know not to misuse it.
Hey, that's facts. And like, it isn't just Palestine, because Israel was doing this to, they've done this to Lebanon, right? They've been bombing Syria. And where was oh my God, please, Israel, stop bombing them. And we were like, yo, they literally treated it like it was another Tuesday. I remember looking at this list of all the times that Israel has bombed Syria, like in the last 3 years. And I was like, bro, It happens so often that it doesn't even make the news.
Exactly.
Do you understand what they're like? Syrians were living in a period. I mean, because they were getting bombed by a lot of people, but specifically, Syrians were living in a period where they got bombed so often, and it was just normal that it didn't even make the news.
Yeah.
That is insane. And Israelis oftentimes cheered it on and justified it as it's because everybody wants to attack us, so we're going to attack them first. It's like, okay, but have they attacked y'all yet? No, not really. Okay, so why are you attacking them? Because they want to. And how do you know this? Because we heard somebody say that on Twitter, I guess. Or that's what my prime minister says. The prime minister that y'all don't like? That y'all are literally trying to oust right now? Yeah, him. The one that you call a liar every day? Yeah, him. So he's lying about everything except for this. Basically. But it really comes down to my bigotry, not me, but their bigotry allows them to believe whenever Netanyahu lies about the victimhood of Israel, while simultaneously they also simultaneously believe he's the most corrupt politician that's ever governed the nation, and they want him in jail. How the fuck do those two things make sense together?
It absolutely doesn't. It's not supposed to make sense, right? It absolutely not supposed to make sense. The Israeli people, their entire life is a contradiction. And that's why they're struggling. They're putting out these information. They're losing the information war in such a gigantic way that I literally had my most viral tweet of all time, 7.5 million views, of people just celebrating Israelis getting smoked by Iran.
That's crazy.
I can't play the audio because I'll get pulled because this is a big show. But people are celebrating around the world that Israel is getting smoked. And I 100% agree with you said, David. But I will go even harsher. I unapologetically cheer when I see these bombs dropping on Tel Aviv. Do you guys know that there is a Telegram channel? One of the biggest Telegram channels in Israel is a group of Israelis that are posting pictures of dead Palestinian children.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Telegram channel.
That,
Yeah, there's a Telegram channel. They post pictures of mutilated children. I saw a screenshot. There's a infamous video of picture of a Palestinian girl that had both her legs blown off. And I saw a screenshot with all these Israelis, and I mean with thousands of likes, laughing at her. And I'm supposed to feel bad? Like, are people serious? How many times I said on this show, there is nothing wrong with hating your oppressors and wanting them to see them get smoked out. There's nothing wrong with hating your oppressors. And after seeing children die, after having my mind broken, seeing all these dead children, I unapologetically want to see these people meet their maker the same way I would want to see Nazis meet their maker. The same way I want to see slave owners meet their maker. The same way I want to see King Leopold meet his maker. You don't apologize. Oh my God, this is sad. It is not sad. This shit is the most glorious thing of all time. And what makes it glorious is because Iran, and I want you guys' thoughts on this. Iran, their strategy has been amazing. Right now, Israel is getting their ass beat so bad by Iran because these idiots thought they can win a war against Iran because they're good at murdering children, that the Knesset passed a bill and they were locking up Israelis for showing the world how badly they were getting their shit kicked in.
Mm-hmm. Can I make a counterpoint to that, Nick?
Yeah, sure.
So I actually believe that they knew they couldn't win this war. And let me tell you, it's actually fucking sinister as shit because it's the same when you think about it in the context of the military strategy to galvanize support for Israel. It actually falls into that same context. It's I'm the victim, so please help us because we can't win by ourselves. So everybody remembers that they exhausted their Iron Dome system. Basically, they depleted it the first time Iran and Yemen responded to that attack when they assassinated those military officials in Syria at the embassy. Every other time Israel has had to use their Iron Dome, the United States rearms them almost immediately.
Absolutely.
Why is it that this time, they've gone through 2 administrations now. That happened under Biden, and yet by the time Trump comes in, you still haven't rearmed the Iron Dome, knowing that you were planning on setting the bitch off. Want to know how we knew? We know how we know that because y'all embedded Mossad agents. Y'all have been shipping in drones, car bombs, planning all this for months to years in advance. But you didn't think to fucking reload before you start a war.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nico.
And then you make sure no Israeli can leave. It's because you knew. First of all, you can't beat an army. You are not a real one, at least not by yourself. So how do you convince Americans to support their government going to war on your behalf? You trap everybody in. You deplete your weapon system. Israeli officials are saying they only have 10 to 12 days, and I doubt it's that long. They have 10 to 12 days of this. And in 10 to 12 days, all hell's about to break loose because the U.S. government's already made its decision. All that's happening right now is the manufacturing of consent to support the decision that's already been made on our behalf.
Nico, you just killed it, my brother, because to the point, they're running out of interceptors. And it's mind-blowing. You're 100% right. Israel know they can't beat Iran, but our corporate news don't know, quote unquote. Because if you was to watch CNN and MSNBC, they're like, yeah, Israel, we should let them go to war with Iran. They don't need American help. They've been convincing Americans and people in the West that they can fight their own wars when Israelis don't have any intention of doing that. Right? That's why we know that Donald Trump's 2-week delay is bullshit. I explained on this show many times before that the decision has already been made a long time ago. Like this whole thing.
You saw the leak, right?
You said what?
The leak of the talking points.
Yeah.
That leak is from days ago. The war just started days ago. Like you already got. Why do you are if you're because Ted Cruz? Well, actually, Ted Cruz actually kind of snitched and said, "What do you mean we are fighting the war? What are you talking about?" Woo, we get to that later. But he said that we're already fighting the war or we're helping Israel. Kind of like he kind of bursted the bubble on that. We all kind of knew that already. They already started intercepting missiles, but the decision had already been made. So, but like the war had just started, and at that point, Israel was still lying about casualties, talking about they only had 2 civilian casualties. That's bullshit. Like you putting these damn missile systems in the middle of neighborhoods, bro. Like, and you trying to tell me, and we're watching the buildings fall, and you're like, 2 people died.
They never tell the truth. We don't, bro. The IDF will get smoked out in Gaza, and they refuse to release the casualty numbers, and if they do, it's absolute bullshit. Maybe anything else you want to add? I want to pass to you because there's still a few more things I want to show you. Anything you want to add? That
was my point. It's just I think that they're getting their shit kicked in, but like it's like they're being sacrificed. Basically, I mean it's the Hannibal directive on a countrywide scale.
Yep, and they were getting ready to kill their own people for it. Like Laura Loomer already been leaking the idea of false flags. They're saying it's going to be a summer of terror. And there was a report I saw not too long ago, I didn't save it though, where they said that there's going to be Jewish people attacked throughout Europe by radical Islamist groups supported by Iran. So that's coming, my friends. That's coming, my friends.
Which is crazy because literally, if Iran allegedly attacked America, that would be the first time Iran ever killed an American in the history of ever. Literally, there is 0. That is, according to U.S. numbers, 0 Americans have died at the hands of the Iranian state, y'all. Obviously, we can't say that about in the reverse. We've killed plenty of Iranians, whether it be through conquering their governments or other methods, but or literally assassinating their leaders. But we can't say that about Israel. Israel's killed more Americans than Iran has. But Ted Cruz wants to sit there and lament. They want to kill America. They want to end America. Okay, well, I understand the words, but like, have they actually killed an American? Well, no, but that's not the point. No, that actually is the fucking point. So now we're supposed to believe for the very first time ever, they're having a war with Israel, therefore they want to kill Trump. Like the logic is so far off. It's like they're not even trying anymore. It may be because they're idiots. It could be that. It could be like they don't even realize how stupid the shit that's coming out of their mouth actually sounds. Israel started a war, therefore Iran must want Trump dead. And they have assassins. That's what Ted Cruz, they have assassins, and they're just not that good. What?
Incoherent. David, is there anything you want to add before I move on?
Yeah, just that in addition to them potentially having that strategy of trying to use their population as essentially bait for the Iranians to then bring the US into the war, which I think is what they might well be trying to do. I think their strategy is also sort of contradictory, because if you saw earlier today, they've also announced that it's now illegal in Israel to film any missile impacts. It's illegal to film the aftermath. It's illegal to film the missiles flying overhead. They're trying to impose an information blockade, basically, because what they've realized is that apart from everything else that they've lost, they're also losing that aura of invincibility that they've built up over decades. That myth of Israel being this hyper capable, impenetrable military superpower, as small as it is, and it's been thoroughly decimated by 30-year-old Iranian missiles. And now they've realized that this is only going to get worse, because once that aura of invincibility, that fear factor has been lost, it's not just Iran you're going to have to worry about going forward, right? Because don't forget, they've spent decades doing their best to create all kinds of enemies in the region. So now they're hemorrhaging that invincibility and they're trying to shore it up. But at the same time, if you successfully impose that information blockade, then how are you going to get the world to see that Iran is doing all this damage to you to then bring the US into the conflict? So they may have just basically shot themselves in the foot, and that's kind of what happens when you're a supremacist. You take irrational, stupid decisions because all you can see is your self-acclaimed supremacism. And then when it doesn't work out, well,
it's paradoxical, right? Like, they don't want anybody to show the damage, but the state wants to control what damage that is seen, right? So, like with the hospital, they wanted to control that narrative, and they tried to spin that shit. They were like, "Oh, look at they're attacking hospitals," and Iran's like, "Actually, no, we didn't even know that hospital was there. We attacked your military installation, and y'all motherfuckers put a hospital beside it. Why are y'all putting hospitals beside military installations? Because they weren't expecting that." That's probably what, because Iran, bro, once again, we have to remember this in the context. The whole reason Iran doesn't have a nuke is because they try their damnedest not to have any collateral damage in whatever military engagement they have. Like, unfortunately, it's unavoidable sometimes, but this hospital was so close to a military installation that it got hit by a shockwave, y'all. Like, and then Israel tried to say that that the hospital was targeted. And it was never targeted, but that is how close that hospital was, and why other hospitals haven't been targeted, because Iran's not trying to target hospitals. Meanwhile, Israel wiped out the entire medical system of Gaza in deliberate targets. They deliberately targeted them. So, like, they're trying to control. Like, they don't want other people to release the information, but they still want to look like the victim. So the state takes like situations like with that hospital and they spin that and try to make it more than what it is without actually showing the actual damage. Because like what David said, if the chink in their armor is exposed, then it's like blood in the water. Like I wouldn't be surprised at some point soon if Hezbollah and Lebanon don't get involved. Like, I would not be surprised, because they're having to pull out IDF soldiers from Gaza right now. So,
dude, guys, this is not going well for Israel, and Iran is actually playing this really well. Like, they're engaging in psychological warfare. That's why I'm doing my part too. Like when the Israelis, when they see 500,000 people like my tweet celebrating Tel Aviv being bombed, that is psychological battle that we are waging against the Israelis, which is causing them to flee their country. And what happens when a mass amount of people flee their country? Their economy suffers, right? What happens when you have a large amount of your population that is not contributing to your economy in an era where tourism is dead? So you're not getting tourism money. Tourism is dead. Think about who can leave a country just out of nowhere. The people with money, right? So the people with the most people who can just fucking leave the country, they already left a long time ago. So good luck.
Those are literally the only people allowed to leave. That's what the rule says. It's literally business people and diplomats and the tourists. So it's literally the only people can leave have money.
Yep.
That's it. So it's like you're fucking draining your country on top of all of it. It's like, bro, I just don't. Netanyahu is so. Once again, I do feel like this was planned in advance, but I do feel like there's an element of Netanyahu trying to protect his own personal interests because of these corruption hearings. There was supposed to be like a total of, I want to say like 70 in total of these corruption hearings. They were supposed to go well into 2026, but they keep getting put off because every time a hearing is scheduled, Netanyahu just fucking takes another pot shot of the country. Like seriously, that's what happens every single time. So I think that they're a little bit there's an element of this was planned. This is a regime change that's been planned, but I also believe that the execution of it is so horrible because Netanyahu is in charge and he's looking out for his own personal interest. I mean, the dude literally was like, "Hey, I know my son's supposed to get married this week, but fuck that guy. We launching these missiles today. Like, I don't care about my own son's wedding that's had to be postponed because we're in the middle of a war with Iran, and I knew this was going to happen and still let it happen."
So there's another reason why I was explaining why Israel's screwed. Obviously, the economy is in shambles. Tourism is dead forever. Do you guys think tourism will come back? You guys think people are going to turn on Israel?
Nah.
I know I didn't want to go there before, but it's 5 years later. No, it's dead forever. Like, it's not going to recover. So not only that, Ron is playing this extremely smart because they're engaging in psychological warfare against the Israelis. Because what are the Israelis used to? The Israelis are used to a Western lifestyle, air conditioning, comfortable living, and pretty much essentially a modern lifestyle. What the fuck they've been doing for the last few days? They've been hiding like little baby bunker bitches. The power going out of nowhere.
I was going to mention that as well, that in addition to taking away all their modern comforts, another very important thing that Iran is doing psychologically is that all the visual symbols of Israeli prosperity, the stock exchange, the tall buildings, all those things are being systematically decimated. And what that is doing to the national psyche of the Israelis is that psychologically it's reducing them to the level of Gaza. Yes. Because I saw someone analyze this recently, that's really the only thing you can do to hurt Israelis. Because don't get the impression that Israelis don't know how awful they are as a people. They're absolutely aware and they're fine with it. They're absolutely aware that they're terrible people and they're okay with it. The only thing that you can do that will really hurt them is take away their position of superiority over the people that they love to oppress. Right. So which is why you saw them doing those TikTok videos about, switching the lights on and off, water coming out of the tap, all of those things, because them having those things while the Gazans are living in shacks makes them, it fills that hole, that gaping hole in the soul of the Israeli. So if you take that away from them, take away their running water, take away their electricity, take away their cable TV and their internet, take away everything that, exactly. Take away all their creature comforts, take away their ability to look across the skyline and see this beautiful modern city. Take that away from them. Let them look across the skyline of Tel Aviv and see Gaza. And that really is the only thing you can do that properly destroys Israelis. And I think it's working. And I think it should continue.
To your point, David, and Nico, I want you to respond to this. I know I want you to respond to this in your original point. Because look at this. I'm glad I found this. Look, this is what Israelis are tweeting. They're fucking turning us into Gaza.
Exactly.
Yep, they surely are. You know what? If Palestinians can't have Palestine, how about nobody has it? How about
exactly?
That's how I feel. Like, I'm not gonna sit here. Like I said, I can't garner sympathy, bro. This last year and a half, I think that I speak for all of us when I say, bro, there, especially at the beginning, bro, I would have days where I'm crying.
I'm about to cry, bro.
I felt so powerless, and watching what was happening in Gaza. We're seeing videos upon pictures. Like, I got kids, like, and I'm like imagining, like, what would I do in that situation? How would I even be equipped to survive or save my kids? And like, the reality is you don't have any control in that situation. Imagine being a parent and not having any control over whether your kid lives or dies because you were just born Palestinian and you live in Gaza and you don't want to leave your home. Like, we went through obviously Palestinians have gone through something nobody else in the world has gone through, in the way that they're trapped and they have nowhere to go and they're being bombed into pieces and being used as political cannon fodder in one way or another by either group. But then on top of that, like, we had all experienced this collective trauma of feeling powerless while Israelis were bragging about the shit, celebrating this shit, making excuse, justifying it, saying that no child is innocent, right? And I'm gonna be quite honest with y'all, like, y'all want to talk about there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian. I'm not gonna say there's no such thing as an innocent Israeli. I'm gonna say there's not enough for y'all for me to give a fuck. I'm just like I'm keeping it a band. Like there's not. I'm so sorry, y'all. There's not enough innocent Israelis for me to give a fuck if y'all are getting slaughtered. Because there are like whenever you see those protests of Israelis in the street, and what's is crazy because those Israelis will probably agree with me. But when you see those protests of Israelis in the street that are actually protesting on behalf of Palestinians, bro, they're like 10 of them. They're like 10 groups of like 10. That's insane. You're telling me there's nobody who cares?
Bro, they had massive pro-rape rallies in Israel. Like
rape.
They were dwarfing the size of the quote-unquote anti-Benjamin Netanyahu, anti-genocide protests in Israel. They were protesting because Israel arrested someone for committing rape. And they're like, no, motherfucker, we don't care about war crimes. And to your point, Nico, every single adult Israeli has to sign up for the IDF. So unless you're a conscientious objector, you're not an innocent Israeli, period. The only innocent Israeli are the Israeli children because Israeli children can't consent to being a criminal colonizer. So what happens when you turn 18, 19? You have to sign up for the IDF. That second that the teenager doesn't go to prison, because there are people in Israel that go to prison because they object to serving the IDF. Unless you're willing to go to prison, unless you're willing to leave the country, you are not innocent. That's my position. I don't expect everyone to agree with it. But you can't serve the IDF and impose apartheid on the people, then retire, kick up your feet, and like, oh, I'm an innocent civilian now. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh no, because you know what happens after you serve your time in the IDF, right? You get a bag. Like you get money. You get enough money. It's like at the time it was like 10,000 shekels, or they help you pay to start a business, or they help you. They pay for your wedding. So it's not like you go to IDF, you do your time, and it's just over. Like you get a significant reward. For just being willing to kill kids, for being willing to maintain apartheid. Like there are people who regret their time in the IDF because that's probably when they realize, oh shit, I'm not protecting anybody. I'm just oppressing this group. There are people who are like that. But once again, the reality of the situation is there are not enough of them for me to care. Like it's sad. I mean, I hate to sound so cruel, I guess, but like, bro, I had to take days off of work at times. Like I had literally requested a day off because I'm like, bro, I can't deal with this shit. I cannot have another day of me looking at video after video after video of these Palestinian kids being blown into pieces. And after that, seeing tweet after tweet after tweet from fucking Israelis celebrating this shit without me being able to cross the fucking river and bust their ass. And people kept saying, why don't you go over there? Boy, I would. That's the thing. Like we're not allowed to. If I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Israel right now to go help fight, we're not allowed to. But like a nigga like me, I fucking would, bro. I'm down with the smoke. I am okay with that. I would go fight y'all motherfuckers because I'm like in MMA, Nick. You an MMA concierge. How many Israelis you see handing out ass whoopings?
They get their ass kicked all the time.
All the time. In other words, in every single situation, an Israeli has to actually fucking fuck with somebody who is trained to bust ass. They get their ass whooped.
A quick question. Name one Israeli champion in the UFC.
Oh, shit.
Name one Glory kickboxing champion that came from Israel. Name one Pride FC champion that came from Israel.
All the opportunity.
Doesn't happen.
All the opportunity. None of the achievements. Why is that? Because the only fucking achievements y'all have are the ones we paid for. I don't know about, you live in Nigeria. I don't know if maybe some of your tax dollars go there too. Nigeria crazy too. But at least as Americans, we pay for y'all shit. We literally hand y'all participation trophies of success all the fucking time. Even the minimal ability you have to defend yourself at this very moment is because our taxpayer dollars are going for it. Yep. Y'all asking us to go fight your battle because y'all are too pussy and not equipped to go fucking fight your own fight that you started. Yep. Iran, what's crazy is right now, y'all notice something? While Iran is out here fighting Israel, knowing that there's a threat of the US, knowing that there's a threat of the UK, knowing that there's a threat of the EU, all of them are threatening to get involved. Who has Iran asked for help from? Not a motherfucking soul.
They're like, hey, Russia, I know you bogged down in Ukraine. Hey, China, it's cool. You got Taiwan, you got to worry about. We got this, bro. We got that. If the West come in, then you might do it, but for now, we got it, bro. You got to worry about Taiwan, you got to worry about Ukraine. We all good, bro.
They didn't even just say we got it. Not only did they say we got it, but they then threatened all of them. Everybody said, we dare y'all to get involved. We
Yes.
dare all of y'all to get involved, and we gonna handle it.
Yep. One more thing I want to add, because I wrote this down because I wanted to explain what I've been thinking over the last yesterday I was doing a lot of thinking, and I've seen what Iran is doing and the status of Israelis, and this is going to my whole thing about the psychological warfare. That's kind of the theme of this segment that we're talking about, how Israel is losing the psychological warfare. Because you understand, modern warfare is not necessarily about the biggest military winning. It's about who breaks first, my friends. So there was good strategy done in Vietnam, for example. They knew that if the American people turn against the war, if the American people are broken, if they see their friends and family going back in body bags, they will win the psychological war, and that will turn the war in their favor. That is quite literally exactly what's happening in Israel right now. And that would lead to Iran's clear shift in strategy, where they are targeting refineries, water plants, power stations, to create a situation where Israel cannot handle what's going on in this war. They cannot possibly stand what's going on. And that is what put Iran in such a strong position, because their people are battle hardened. They have no other choice to engage in this war. But I want to show you guys this, because I want to get into what the New York Times and the corporate media is saying. I've been watching this for like the last 24 hours. Bro, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Fox News, they might as well be Mossad news network. Like, as a whole, they're literally coordinating talking points. Like, if you was to watch the CNN segment on this, MSNBC segment, there is very little difference. Fox News, they straight up saying, Jesse Waters said that the Trump administration is considering using a nuke in Iran. I have a Hotspot video coming out today where I explain how Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Heck said they will push to the side because Donald Trump is getting his information and getting his advice on Iran from Fox News of all places. So Fox News is straight up convincing Donald Trump to wage war.
Now he cares about Tulsi Gabbard's opinion, because when Tulsi said that they didn't have a nuke, he was like, I don't care what she says. But now he cares about her opinion.
Yeah, I should have had the receipt saved, but I'm showing you guys. This is why I did my Hotspot video on today. Look, I'm gonna show you this. I kind of went out of order. God damn it, Rolling Stones. But it says Fox News. Let me turn this off. Fox News is demanding war with Iran, and Donald Trump is listening. So for all the delusional MAGA bros, all the dumbasses that we was warning, Nico, that thought MAGA was a populist movement, MAGA was never about Tucker Carlson politics. It was never about Dave Smith's politics. It was always about Laura Loomer's politics. It was all about Sean Hannity. Donald Trump is getting his direct foreign policy from Sean Hannity right now. Bro. So anyway, let me get back to what I really about. I want David to respond to this, and I want you guys to respond to this headline. The point I was making is the media is horrible right now. Now look at this headline. I want David to respond and Nico to respond, because you have the entirety, including the Democrat Party, we're going to get to them soon, trust me, that is supporting this war against Iran because they want to check China more than anything else, because they see Iran selling a large amount of oil to China. So their mindset is, if we can take out Iran and weaken Iran, have a regime change, that would be another way to take out China. So let me read the headline. I want you guys to respond. We start with David and then we go Nico. A U.S. attack on Iran will show the limits of China's power. China, which depends on Iran for oil and to counter American influence, has a lot to lose from a wider war. But there's not much it can do about it. I got a lot to say on this. But I want to get before I chime in, David, Nico, do you guys have any thoughts?
Go ahead, David. Go ahead real quick.
I see two things here. First of all, there's an attempt to frame this as though this is a war with Iran is not like potentially a world-ending event in and of itself, which it is, but that it's sort of like it's an experiment to gauge what a war would to gauge the power of Chinese, of the strength of the Chinese military. And for me, the second and more important thing here is that this is clearly setting up something that I've been saying for a long time, which is that the end game ultimately is China. Yes. The end game of all of this, the empire's end game, is to neutralize China, because China is occupying the position now that the Soviet Union once occupied as the empire's primary opposition, but is also much stronger than the Soviet Union ever was, even at its peak.
And
So,
more clicked up. They're more clicked up.
whether
They got more allies. They have more allies, whether by hook or by crook. Like they have allies that are choosing to be allies, but they also have so many countries in their pocket that depend on China that it makes China a problem that Soviet Union couldn't be.
And then even in terms of the sheer industrial capacity of China, it's what the Soviet Union, even at its peak, could never dream of being. The Chinese literally make everything. The Chinese are a higher level of technological advancement than the US. Even the Soviet Union at its peak couldn't say that. So the empire clearly sees China as its primary threat. So ultimately, whether it's Iran, whether it's Syria, whether it's even Russia, the end goal of all of this is to encircle China. And, I would think it'd be pretty obvious to anyone who has a functioning pair of eyes that all these countries I've just mentioned, with the exception of Syria, are all nuclear states or close to being nuclear states. So it's a suicidal idea to try to engage them in a direct war between nuclear powers. But again, I guess the people who actually make these decisions, maybe we give them too much credit sometimes. Maybe they're just not as sane as you think they are.
They're not saying at all. I mean, I feel like we give them too much credit all the time. Like that interview with Ted Cruz, just as like a random thought, like, did he actually sit down? Because y'all know, we know the process before they agree to do something like that. And someone sat down with Ted Cruz and they had a production meeting across a cost benefit analysis, y'all. And they said, yeah, this would be a genius idea. We're going to definitely come out looking better. And I can't imagine in what fucking world, did you think that you were going to come out looking better? I mean, by the end of the interview, he accidentally revealing the fact that his dad actually fought on behalf of the Communist Revolution. Like, Jesus Christ. It did not go well. But, it did not go well. I mean, not only did it not go well, but we learned a lot about you, Ted. So there's that. But as far as I 100% agree, though, and the end game has to be China because so obviously economically speaking, but there's a similar situation in China that Iran has, which is the U.S. really does not know how capable China is militarily. They know about their technology. They know they had billions of people. They know about, but it's, you want to see, and because they don't know. They don't really know. You can know, but you cannot. It's just like with Iran. I always tell people, like, we're not going to directly fight with Iran. They will never directly fight with Iran. That's why we sent Iraq first. And this time, what do we do? We're sending Israel. They're sending everybody and everything at them except for themselves. Because we got to see. And even at this moment, it's like David said, they busting their ass with 30-year-old missiles. So we still don't know their capabilities. Exactly. Now imagine China. China. Yo, everybody saw the Olympics. We saw the Olympics in Beijing.
You see the drone shows?
If they military is as disciplined, as efficient as that opening ceremony, it's over. You know what I'm saying? People like little things like that. Like I know I'm joking, but like little tidbits like that will let you know a lot about a society. Like you didn't hear, for example, whenever the Olympics came to Rio or the World Cup came to Rio. Unfortunately, a lot of favelas got destroyed. There's a lot more complaints about what had to be destroyed in order for those Olympics to come here for the upper middle class to the wealthy to receive the benefits. You didn't hear about that with China.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just benefits.
Yeah.
Right?
They built entire cities.
Exactly. So now, fast forward, where China, they just try to run a tariff war against China. Trump, everybody, I ain't forget about Liberation Day and how Liberation Day lasted for all of a week. That shit ain't coming back. Y'all feel liberated? Tariff war in a week, bro.
I've been asking MAGA, do you feel liberated right now? Do you feel liberated? Bro, MAGA is like, bro, the Civil War of MAGA has been amazing. I want to respond. There's a lot I want to get back to where you're laying on, Nico. I just want to respond to this headline real quick, and I'll get back to it because there's something that's been on my mind as I say this. I'm taking a different direction because you guys already kind of laid out what my initial take was. Look at what they say here, and I'm just now thinking about this. Sorry to cut you off, Nico, but you said, look at this say here. China, I'm gonna skip the comma part, has a lot to lose from a wider war. Look, think about that statement. China has a lot to lose from a wider war. What does it say about your society when war benefits you? You're like, oh my God, this other country don't want to go to war because it will hurt them. The same way that Biden said, if we had a ceasefire in Gaza, it would benefit Hamas. Remember how they said if we had a ceasefire in Ukraine that would benefit Putin? What does it say about the West that whenever peace is discussed, it's always negative against them, good for the enemies? If war always benefits you, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. Saying stuff like, "Oh, we can't have a ceasefire in Ukraine because that will benefit Putin." That means you're the bad guy. You're clearly the problem in this situation.
Right. It also gives you a glimpse into who really started the war, like who's the real cause. It's like because generally, who like the person who would have caused the war is the one who would have benefited the most from it. Like that's just logic. So in this particular case, a war with Iran would actually be a problem for China. First of all, and they say a wider. That's what's scary. A wider war.
Yeah, right? As if the United States will win a wider war. Like, what do you mean? Everyone will lose from a wider war, you dipshit.
Everybody. And there's also the assumption that there's a massive assumption that China would somehow be hurt by a wider war. I would go on a limb and say about 70% of the world would be against the US and Israel. They would be buying their arms from who? China and Russia, most likely. And even probably some from Iran itself. China's manufacturing industry would go insane. China, for some reason, they keep forgetting. While the U.S. is bullshitting and relying on oil for all of their vehicles and things like that, China has multiple electric vehicle companies. So when we're talking about something as simple as people wouldn't even think about it, a supply chain. Our oil prices went up and supply chains were hurt during the pandemic, largely because of the oil prices. China don't have that issue. China, they got as many electric vehicles and as many electric vehicle companies as they need. Like, they have all the lithium in the world. That Taiwan shit, yeah, you can go ahead and end that conversation's over. Because if y'all even come near Taiwan, we busting y'all ass because now we're at war. This whole back and forth that we doing, that little cute tit for tat we be doing, that's over. We got Taiwan. If you even mention Taiwan, we busting y'all ass. Like, where does this idea come from that China would be hurt by a wider war? They would, no, only thing that would be solidified is the amount of allies that they have and how much control they actually could exert over the world's economy if at a snap of a finger. That's what would happen. And I don't think that people realize that. But if China did not have that ability, the United States wouldn't consider them as big of a threat as they do. Because even when the beef isn't with China, they still somehow try to make it about China.
Yeah.
The only thing the only thing I'd add to that is the Strait of Hormuz, which, as you know, is controlled by Iran. If there were a wider war and Iran were to close the Strait of Hormuz, which has happened before, essentially global trade, as you know it, grinds to a halt. Oil prices will hit $120 per barrel. Everybody is going to die, literally. This is not going to end well for anyone. Not for us in Africa, not for Europe, definitely not for Europe, not for the US as well. Nobody's going to benefit. So again, I don't know what genius is coming up with this strategy that I'm gonna shoot myself in the face to potentially hurt some enemy that I've created for myself.
And it's crazy
I don't understand it.
And it's crazy because Americans and Israelis are the last people who would accept the sacrifice to their quality of life over this war, because we all know that everyone will suffer because of this. Well, as you guys mentioned, the strategy doesn't even make sense, but I guess it doesn't have to. The last thing I will say on this segment, because I have two more quick segments and we can begin to wrap up. So I'm going to wrap up with this thought. As they say that peace will benefit China and how war is so great for the West, who was the one who was making peace deals in the Middle East? You had China making a peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So look at the contrast there. You had the United States that's funding genocide, that is willing to drop a nuke on Iran, that is willing to start war with Iran, versus China that is making peace deals. Mm-hmm. And there are people who still U.S. flag bumping patriots, and they hate China and the United States? How can you possibly view China as the bad guy in this situation?
The CCP is corrupting our universities. Thank God. If the alternative is for some reason America wants to drop a nuke on Iran, even for a war they're supposedly not even a part of, yes, I'm okay with the CCP corrupting universities if they're really doing so.
I need Xi Jinping to liberate us, bro. I want to see the full thing at this point. But anyway, let me move on to the next part because I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. I'll respond to the super chat real quick. I only see a few, so I'm gonna read two super chats real quick. Thanks, Nick. Thank RBN, Revolutionary Blackout. Thank you, Tony, for the $10. I want to reply to this super chat. Thank you for the 999. Nick, it is imperative that you understand that MAGA and MAGA aren't the same. MAGA isn't interested in wars. America always end up in debt. America has gotten zero reward for anyone, including Nam. Quick question, Wandy. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the sentiment. But who did MAGA vote for? So what you're saying is essentially the same. Do you think there's a difference between a progressive Democrat and a Democrat? Do you think that the difference between Cenk Uygur, who voted for Joe Biden, who voted for genocide, that's essentially what people like to say. And it's so mind-blowing for me because they be like, Nick, don't you know that MAGA was betrayed? Who gives a fuck?
There's a difference, Nick. What they say, that's about where it stops. It's just what they say on Twitter. That's
if you have this position, you might as well support Cenk Uygur. Like, if you have this position, you might as well be a Bernie Sanders fan because Bernie Sanders is better than the average Democrat, but he's a fucking Democrat. That's the same with the Make America Healthy Again people, because these are people that I want to make America healthy again, but ask them if they support universal health care. So I'm not impressed with these people like you guys are. I view them as actually deeply intellectually shallow. We're going to make America healthy again. What about the poor people who need health care? Not fuck them. The fuck y'all talking about? It's not even a good movement. Like, even the good parts of the movement is trash.
You know what? No, you know what's even actually crazy about the MAGA movement, Nick, is that the majority of them actually did support universal health care until RFK started waffling on it. And then it was like, oh, well, I don't know, because there are a lot of problems with the healthcare. I'm like, hold up. No. That's not what y'all were saying before. Like, they're just like a lot of their positions on Israel moved because of RFK, because they fell for that same cult of personality issue that MAGA has. Because there was a point, I remember back in the day, where there were many more anti-war MAGA people. I remember whenever he attacked Syria and MAGA came after him in full force. It was like 2017, 2018. They actually came after him in full force. And I was actually surprised. I was like, wow, I expected for y'all to actually get this right. But once again, when MAGA turned into this massive economy, and largely thanks to the Democrats, which is a whole different thing, but it became a massive economy, kissing Trump's ass. They just turned into TY. It just became access journalism, access activism. They started making money from being anti-Democrat and being Trump loyalists no matter what. And once you get into that no matter what zone, which we've seen plenty of people, I literally saw somebody on Twitter post, I'm tired of people going back and forth on whether or not they support Trump. Either you support him or you don't, policies be damned. I'm like, huh? I thought you support Trump because of his policies. So it had nothing to do with his policies? You just slobbering his knob, basically? You just like his personality? Like bro, if you like personalities, like fucking pick a celebrity to worship.
It's like blue MAGA, red MAGA. They're the same thing. That's what I've been saying. That's why I don't understand why people treat MAGA as if they're anything other than liberals. They are just fucking neoliberals. That's what the Republican Party is, a party of neoliberals. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's move on, because I don't want to keep. I got two quick segments I absolutely want to do, so I don't want to keep you guys long. Speaking of who actually have influence in MAGA. So for anyone who thinks that there is a populist MAGA, that was always a myth. It's not true. The people who always have Donald Trump's ear were Jesse Waters, was Sean Hannity. You guys managed to convince yourself. That's why I don't respect these people. You convinced yourself that Donald Trump, a guy who got started in politics doing what? This motherfucker got started in politics because he would live tweet shit he saw on Fox News. Donald Trump is literally a Fox News watching boomer who got started in politics because he spread the Obama birther conspiracy theory. You guys remember?
I thought he started the conspiracy theory.
That is what got done. Before that, he was nothing other than a reality game show host. Then he did the Obama birther conspiracy, where he got from where? Fox News. Donald Trump has never, ever been this populist. He's always been a Fox News watching boomer. And then the MAGA who presented and projected themselves onto Trump, they are now surprised. I can't believe Trump betrayed us. What do you mean? He always been influenced by these people, not you. Do you guys really believe that Donald Trump is watching independent media and deep dive into Ukraine? Like,
no, no. You know who was watching? I don't think it was Trump. It was Bannon. Whenever Trump would get his populist message right, I mean, Bannon even admitted at the time he stole his messaging from Bernie, and then he crafted it for conservatives. He literally admitted that. I think it was on Bill Maher or Stephen Colbert's show. I was like, that is exactly what the fuck he did, which is why you saw so many Bernie people whenever he sold us out in 2016 immediately pivot towards Trump. Because it seemed like it was easy for them. Because remember, at one point, Trump even threatened the Republicans. He said, if y'all don't fucking put a damn healthcare plan together, I'm just going to give everybody universal healthcare. That actually happened. I was like,
the thing is, the point I was making, though, that no one should believe. I want to get to the clip, though. The point that I was making that no one should ever believe this bullshit that Steve Bannon pulled, it was a great political trick. Here's the report, because I want to get to this, because this is the story I have in the headline. I gotta make sure I get to this. This is Jesse Waters explaining how Donald Trump is considering using tactical nuke. Now, I want you guys to speak on this and get your reaction to this as well. After this segment, we will talk about how, because the last segment I want to do after this is how the Democrats are responding. Remember, Nico, we don't diss the Democrats at least once in the stream. We're not really talking. So that we have one more segment after this, one more quick segment on how the Democrats are responding to this. But let's respond to this first.
RBN reported Trump was getting cold feet, worried about the effectiveness of bunker busters and not willing to use tactical nukes. But the White House tells Fox that's not true. Everything's on the table, even tactical nukes. The big question is, if the United States does target Iran, what happens next? The White House isn't considering boots on the ground. Iran's 3 times the size of Texas and surrounded by mountains.
So we must stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon because they're a country full of crazy Islamists. So in response, we got to nuke them first. David, I want you to respond to Nico. You can jump in as well after that. What's your response?
So
it's crazy.
Putting aside the just craziness of that idea that somehow some people have arrogated to themselves the sort of moral necessity of using nuclear weapons, which is a fucking stupid idea to begin with. There's also the idea that you're going to nuke a country which has several strong allies, nuclear armed allies, and no one's going to nuke you back. Again, it comes back to this thing. There was a Hotspot video I made about this most recently where I talked about Imperial exceptionalism, where people within the empire almost live in a state that is divorced from reality. They genuinely believe that they're special, that the rational rules of reality somehow don't apply to them. Because I would think it would be pretty common sense that Iran, even if it's not already a nuclear state, it's only not a nuclear state by choice. It very easily could be. It might well be right now. Actually, we have no way of knowing. So the idea that you're going to drop a nuke on Iran, and then there isn't going to be something earth-shifting happening in response, I don't know where that idea comes from. Because even if somehow you're able to totally paralyze Iran, which is impossible, it's just too big. But even if, for the sake of argument, something you've never been able to do before, which is fight an actual war against an actual conventional military which can and will shoot back. You're not fighting against rice farmers in Vietnam. You're not fighting against poppy farmers in Afghanistan and interior designers in Baghdad. You're fighting against actual trained soldiers, actual militaries with decades worth of military inventory. Assuming you somehow do what you've never done before, you actually defeat a proper military. I repeat, you have never done that in the past 100 years. Even the Second World War was run by Russia. It wasn't won by the US. So even if, for the sake of argument, you manage to do something you have never done before, what happens afterward? Because you have the Pakistanis who have said very clearly that is a nuclear armed state. And they said if Israel drops a nuke on Iran, they're going to respond in kind because they understand very well that they will be next in line. You have Russia, which is also a close ally of Iran. You have China, which is also a close ally of Iran. You have North Korea, which is also an ally of Iran. All of these are nuclear armed states. Do you think that you're going to drop a nuke on a population for the first time since 1945, and all these countries which have nukes of their own are not going to at least consider responding in kind? And if that happens, do you understand that all of us are going to die? Literally, all of us are going to die, even those of us who are nowhere near where all of this is happening. Because all it takes for all of us to die is for 3 or 4 nukes to go off and nuclear winter to become the result, and then food production across the world becomes impossible. Within 6 months to a year, everybody dies, except maybe you're a billionaire who has a bunker somewhere in New Zealand or something. You know, good for you. All of us are going to fucking die. So again, I don't know who the geniuses are who sit down in the Pentagon or wherever and come up with these ideas, these scenarios that they're going to be like, I don't know, the Avengers or something. You're going to execute some video game maneuver and somehow nothing's going to ricochet towards you. Because I think even within the sort of limited conflicts that the US military has fought for the past half century against people who are basically not really soldiers and against armies that don't have actual training and capacity, the US military has managed to lose every single one of those conflicts, right? The US military fought against Vietnamese paddy rice farmers and lost. The US military fought against ragtag militants somewhere in the Afghan mountains and lost. The US military fought against Iraqi civilians and lost. The US military is currently fighting against, whoever those guys are in Yemen, and they're not winning, right? They fought against fishermen in Somalia, and they ended up having their asses dragged through Mogadishu, dead. So when exactly has it ever happened that this huge military power has gone abroad in one of these adventures and done something constructive? When has it ever happened? So why would it happen now, especially when the enemy of all countries is Iran? Who comes up with these? I can't just.
Yeah, we have a suicidal ruling class, and it's another thing. I don't have time to show you guys this stuff because I'll tell you, I've been obsessed with watching the war propaganda. Like I'm a political nerd, guys. And one of the most important things for the ruling class to do is to convince the populace that their military is invincible. Because if you're able to convince your population that your enemy is weak and your military is invincible, they are more likely to convince to support the war. Remember the beginning of the war in Ukraine where they said Russia weak, we're winning the war. Russia weak, we're winning the war. They're doing the same thing right now. Despite, remember the first segment we did explaining how Israel getting their shit kicked in. We talk about how they're losing psychologically. Everyone who's following this war know that Israel's getting their ass handed to them. That's why the Knesset is banning footage. Meanwhile, if you was to turn on Fox News, fam, bro, I might have to do a whole solo show just to show you guys the bullshit they were telling these boomers. They say, Israel, their plan was immaculate. They have the expert military. They got Iran checkmated. Iran, their retaliation against Israel, it didn't do anything. Israel just exposed Iran as a bitch. The Iron Dome shot down every single Iranian missile. God, you think I'm exaggerating? I swear to God, I'm not. I might have to do a full stream just to pull up some Fox segments to show you guys that they are convincing their followers that Israel is invincible and they cannot lose this war with Iran. And that's why the string. And I'll pass to you, Nico. I know you want to chime in. The biggest failure of peace movements and the left in the United States is going after military culture, going after this mentality that the United States military is worth a damn. Because I have, ever since the beginning of my time as a citizen journalist, I've been bringing up this article that I have saved for 5 years now, 4 years now. How many times have I done segments on this, my friends? It's crucial for us to explain to our brothers and sisters that you will die if you go overseas. You will die, and you deserve it. Your dumb ass deserve it if you think you're going to go overseas and be invincible. That's why they trick people, because they think they fucking G.I. Joe. They're going to go and blow up some people who don't know how to fight. They come back at their ass beating, they have PTSD. But sorry, Nico, I know you want to chime in. Go ahead, bro.
No, you cooking. I mean, it's 100% true. I mean, as many segments as you've done on that, it's probably as many times as I've repeated, and I've been saying this for years and years and years up into this moment. I keep telling y'all, Iran is not to be fucked with. Yeah. And I kept explaining, I'm like, y'all have to look at the context of history. if the U.S. even thinks we have a chance to bust your ass, we will go. Even if we really don't, like David just laid out, we keep losing, but if we think we can, we will. And yet Iran has always seemed to be the one exception to that rule. And the only, well, as far as the Middle East is concerned. But look at every other exception to that rule. China and Russia. So, in other words, countries in which we know we can't go toe-to-toe with you. And you want to know how we know even to this day that we can't go toe-to-toe with Iran? Because they're like, we would rather risk starting a nuclear winter than to put boots on ground. They would rather start a nuclear war than to put boots on ground, because that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back, ladies and gentlemen. Because we've been riding this whole "we won World War II" narrative forever, and they just kind of leave out the Vietnam situation. They try to pretend like that's an exception to the rule. In Korea, the fact that Korea is North Korea and South Korea is because really North Korea kind of won. Like we bowed out. So they were able to maintain their communist country in a separate state, right? They put the DMZ there to try to make sure that North Korea's influence couldn't stretch into South Korea, but North Korea kind of won that war, or at least we didn't win it. So
you guys realize the United States was panicking so bad in Korea because they realized they couldn't win. They started kidnapping random Koreans, especially military-aged Korean men, and they would torture them to death, accusing them of working with the Revolutionary Korean Army. They would accuse them of being part of North Korea. So they kidnapped random people. They went to villages, burned them down to the ground because they accused them of being headquarters of North Korea. You know, the same thing the Mossad is doing, but the IDF is doing.
We threatened Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali after they liberated themselves from France. We kept threatening them, and we kept threatening them, and then they were like, "Yeah, get your asses out. Y'all not about to do shit." And guess what we did? Not a goddamn thing. So if we can't even keep Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger in check after the amount of colonialism they've experienced and the tumultuous history that they have, how you gonna beat Iran? And why is it that there are so many people that have been convinced that Iran is this third world nation? That is proper. There's so many people that have consumed so much propaganda. Y'all have actually convinced yourself that somehow Iran is a third world nation, but they're also the most dominant nuclear superpower in the region, and they have
their hands all over They got fucking proxies. They got their hands all over the world. Apparently, they control the Houthis in Yemen. They control the Lebanese government.
They can assassinate the U.S. president.
Yep.
Yeah, but here's the thing: those proxies are real. That part, but that's my point. They have operated so efficiently. Like, everybody remember, why did they assassinate Soleimani? Because Soleimani was getting these terrorist groups just bop, 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 bop everywhere he went. He was knocking them out. And these are the terrorist groups who are funding the United States to destabilize these regions. That's why they had to get them up out of there.
Yep.
They are officially running organizations or militia groups they're coordinating militia groups from Iran in other countries. And it's not even the Iranian military. So imagine the coordination that they would have with their own actual military. They said, oh man, Iran is 3 times the size of Texas. How many times have I mentioned the size of Iran and how we don't have a real inkling of just how big that territory is, nor do we have any idea how to navigate it, Nick? How many times have I mentioned the population of Iran? How many times have I mentioned they have intel on certain parts of Iran? But it mostly is Tehran and maybe the official ways and how the government works and their operational and administrative stuff. But I'm talking about, to fight a war, you got to know the territory. Because Vietnam busted our ass because of what? We thought that weapons and the bigger guns and the bigger bombs would win a war. And like you said, rice farmers came out and said, bitch, I'm about to hide right under this grass right here. Right. Pop up on you. Pop, pop. Damn, didn't even need a bomb for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine Iran. And that's a real military who have been waiting, bro. Have been waiting for this war. They have been waiting for y'all. And Trump, you are such a bitch. Because you called Fox News to confirm I want the smoke, but we ain't putting boots on the ground.
And think, Nico. And think about Nico. I want to get David in here too, but think about it. Why did we get our ass whooped in Vietnam? because these white Europeans, these European motherfuckers, were used to killing each other for hundreds of years on a flat surface. They used to fight. They were used to fighting in Europe. They used to have these wars where the armies used to look at each other. They used to wave their flags. It was fucking the dumbest way to fight war ever. That's why Napoleon. That's why France kept losing to Russia. France was whooping everyone's ass. Then they kept fighting Russia. They keep losing because Europe. They convinced themselves that they had the best militaries in the world, right? Because they were so used to fight on these flat surfaces. Then they went to Vietnam. And what is Vietnam? Vietnam is nothing like Europe. Vietnam is full, at least it used to be full, of lush jungles. And Vietnamese fighters, they used to have ambushes. They used to have these Vietnamese traps that are famous. So what did the West do? Because the West was used to fighting war in one linear way, they accused them of cheating. Oh, you guys are fucking cheating. You guys are setting up fucking ambushes and traps. Don't you know that we have a rule? We gotta have honor. You stand there with your army, you have your flag, that is not how anyone else in the world wages war. So they went to Vietnam, got their ass beat because they were fighting guerrilla warfare fighters. They're not used to fighting. So what did the West do? They committed the largest act of eco-genocide in human history, where they burned down the lush forest. I saw someone break down the forest of Vietnam.
And poison the water.
David, do you want what was that?
I was just mentioning that they also poisoned Vietnam's water supply.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Agent Orange.
Yeah. What guys? If you the people if you like one of the people that feel bad for Vietnamese troops, you have no idea what they did there, guys. You have no idea what the United States have done to Vietnam. The forest that Vietnam had was a unique global wonder of the world. It was a unique forest with unique wildlife, very lush, produces a ton of trees, wildlife, like a very unique ecosystem. Like one of the biggest forests ever. And the United States napalmed and destroyed all of it. Why? Because they couldn't defeat them. They had to see them. They was getting frustrated because they was hiding in trees and stuff. The overall point I am making, the West is used to waging war in one uniform, predictable way, which led to the losses over and over and over again. Now we're in an era where not only are you still unable to fight these wars, like let me get to this point because this comment here mentions Afghanistan, caves, and mountains. So what happened when the West went to Afghanistan? I almost forgot this point. They went to Afghanistan. They saw the caves and mountains. The Taliban kept fucking ambushing them using the mountains as an advantage. So then what did they do? They accused them of cheating. That's what they always do when they look, oh, you cheating, using the mountains and caves to your advantage. No, not everyone fight wars like you guys do. And that's why you guys consistently getting humbled. What I want to do, there's one more story I want to do. I'm going to cut that point off because I want to keep this around 90 minutes. Any final thoughts that you guys have before I get to the final story of the day? David, Nico, anything you want to add? All right, let me move on.
Go ahead.
This will be the last story. Like we're almost 90 minutes. This shit flew by. This will be the last story of the day because this is where I'm mostly going to get on the Democrats. But we're going to start here because apparently, this is according to Seymour Hersh, who's been batting fucking crazy. He's been accurate so much on so many things recently. He explained how, and I'm summing up the article for sake of time because I skimmed through this. He explained he has contacts in the government that he's been relying on decades. Like these contacts been explaining, yeah, this whole thing about Trump waiting is bullshit. You know, same thing I told you guys on RBN. So according to Seymour Hersh, and we will see if he's correct, the war with the United States is going to start around this weekend. Now, considering that Donald Trump is about to start the new Iraq war, the new war that will define our country for the next decades to come, what are the Democrats doing in this situation? Here's the New York Times. Trump might take the United States to war. Where are Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? And people are realizing, and we all know that Kamala would do this war with Iran. She told us on the campaign trail.
Of course you would, yeah. I'm telling you, it's not like they feel talking. It's not like they strategizing together, honestly, every night before he go to bed.
Yeah. I'm going to read this headline. I'll pass it to you guys. This won't be a super long segment. Look, fury grows over Democratic complacency in face of a looming war of choice in Iran. And this is why Trump derangement syndrome never made sense to me. Because how can you say that Trump is the most evil motherfucker of all time? He's unhinged. He's going to plunge our country into chaos. But every single consequential decision he makes, you guys are right there with them. You guys support him 100%. You guys remember, I need to stop telling the story. But Claire McCaskill, she ran against Josh Hawley. Remember The person who's now on MSNBC every day. She ran against Josh Hawley and she criticized him because she said Josh Hawley is too young and inexperienced to get the wall done. She was running on a pro-wall, pro-Trump immigration. She's like, I have Washington experience. I had the ability to reach across the aisle. I will be able to work with Trump to get the wall done. Claire McCaskill wants you to forget about that, but I remember those ads like yesterday. The point being is Democrats is aligned with Donald Trump. This will be the last thing I'll share, and I'll pass it to you guys when we begin to wrap. Look at this. AIPAC demands Democrats stand with Israel. So in the light of what's going on right now, Hakeem Jeffries, who his entire career is owed to AIPAC, Chuck Schumer, who openly said that his job is to keep the left pro-Israel. They are now supporting Donald Trump in this war, and AIPAC is sending rage text messages. If you read this article, I'm saving time. You guys should read this article because they explain how AIPAC is openly threatening people, sending rage emails, and they're pretty much threatening Democrats in their career, and they do not support this war. So that, David, Nico, any response? Just show the weak resistance of the Democratic Party. Go ahead, Nico.
I gotta say, because we just watched maybe it was, I think it was literally last week. It really might have been just a week ago, which is crazy because it doesn't feel like that, but. Like these Democrats were all over Twitter, bro. Viral videos, segments on CNN, MSNBC, because of what happened with the ICE raids and the threatening of Gavin Newsom's potential arrest. And I'm like, wow, y'all were like, it would be one thing if y'all weren't so loud just like a week ago, Nick. It was a week ago, and we couldn't get them to shut up. Like, and they were just, God, look at us roar. AOC and Bernie before that, going on campaigns around the country, talking about, we fighting the oligarchy. And you fast forward. Okay, so what about a comment on potential World War III? Got nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's no way. And like Nick, I think we actually had this conversation the other day. Like we were like kind of looking. We're like, yo, hold up. Where's Bernie, AOC, and nothing. Are you trying to tell me that at a moment where there could be a nuclear war, there could be another layup moment for y'all? This is like the midterms are coming up. This is a campaign point. Hey, like everybody who doesn't want to go to war, y'all can just vote for me and I'm gonna vote against it. Or I'm gonna do whatever I can to fight against it. Like this is a layup. This is a slam dunk. This is an alley-oop. You can't bring yourself to say I'm not going to support a war against Iran based off of a lie, because it is indeed a lie. And then it's like you got to pick your lie on top of that. You can point out, the Democrats point out, we don't know what the motive here. Like maybe if we had a legitimate motive and a threat to U.S. national security, but at first it was a nuclear weapon, but Trump's own administration said it wasn't, and he just isn't listening to him. And then it was, now they want to threaten the president or assassinate the president, but they've never said that before. Why is it just being said now? We're finding out the U.S. is assisting Israel through interviews with fucking Ted Cruz. Like, you have all the ammo to combat this, and you have the public behind the, there are other people, there are former Trump supporters now coming out against it. You could accidentally win the midterms. And y'all chose right now to be quiet. And I'm not surprised. Hakeem Jeffries, where are Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer? In the same fucking AIPAC meeting as Trump. What are you talking about? They're in the meeting together.
Look at this, Nico. I want David to respond as well. I know you don't follow U.S. domestic politics too close, but I would love to hear your thoughts on his weak resistance. And I just saw this headline now. Tucker Carlson is doing a better job than Democrats. Like, this is coming from even the mainstream media is like, what is going on? I thought we had a two-party system. You guys are supposed to give us political theater. We need drama.
At least.
Imagine you watching pro wrestling and all the wrestlers are getting along with each other. That's what the corporate media feels like covering this story. They're like, man, if Tucker Carlson's speaking out against this war, why can't you guys do it? This is what they essentially bragging for drama.
Is it not an element to that?
Look, they say Tucker Carlson is doing a better job than Democrats of countering Trump on Iran. We're in such a bizarre world. He said that about Tucker Carlson. Since when have Democrats ever been on the good side of the foreign policy conversation? I don't like Tucker for a lot of good reasons, but his foreign policy is pretty good for the most part.
But it's true though, because but it's the theater of it. Okay, we're getting more theater right now, nigga, as you point out, from the internal fighting within MAGA than Democrats fighting against Republicans.
Yeah, that's why the corporate media is like, what the fuck is going on? But David, do you have any reactions Democrats sided with Republicans helping promote war. That's why they've been weak on it. Any reaction for you, David?
Yeah. I mean, so again, you said I don't follow U.S. domestic politics closely. That's wrong. I actually do, because wherever you are in the world, unfortunately, it affects you. Even if you're born in a village in Madagascar, it's still your business. Unfortunately,
fair enough.
That's how it works. So this thing of AIPAC being essentially in control of both sides of the U.S. oligarchy extends even beyond the U.S., beyond the Western Empire. It extends even into the global South, into Africa. You may or may not know this. A couple of days ago, the Israeli ambassador to Ghana made certain comments, essentially chastising the Ghanaian government for not voting on the side of Israel on a recent UN resolution regarding Iran.
I did see that.
Right, and like it wasn't like a statement of, "Oh, I'm not happy that the Ghanaian government did this." It was more like, "How dare the Ghanaian government do this?" That again, that sense of like superiority, that arrogance, that we are the ones who tell you what to do. Who told you that you're allowed to have independent foreign policy? So that has caused the whole political storm in Ghana now. The Ghanaian foreign minister has just summoned the Israeli ambassador to explain his comments, and there's a whole thing going on there now. But that's kind of like the power of what we're dealing with here, where there's this idea that, I mean, I saw this. I remember growing up when I was 13, and in the run-up to the Iraq War, even though I was in Nigeria at the time, my dad used to buy like Time Magazine, Newsweek, Reader's Digest, all that stuff. I used to read it. And what I noticed was that even though he bought these publications from both sides of the political spectrum in the US, when it came to the topic of war with Iraq, they literally ran the same headlines. They used the same pictures. They put out the same messaging. The week of the actual Iraq invasion, the so-called shock and awe operation in Baghdad, you can go back and check this, because I remember this very clearly as a 13-year-old. Time Magazine and Newsweek ran the same front page. They ran the same front page. Two completely different publications that purported to come from two different sides of the political spectrum. They ran the same headline with the same picture of Saddam, the same page layout, the same front page. And even though I didn't understand what I was looking at the time, it just really struck me that there's something really creepy about this. Now that obviously I understand that what we were witnessing wasn't journalism, it was manufacturing of imperial consent, basically. I guess that's where we're witnessing this all over again in real time. What makes it such a mindfuck this time around is that we've literally seen this before, and we're supposed to have become wiser. We're supposed to have got past this. But it almost seems as if not everyone has figured the game out. And there's still I don't want to say a majority, but at very least a significant minority of people who still don't get it. So these guys are running the same playbook all over again and hearing the same talking points all over on the media all over again. All of a sudden, this guy that most people hadn't heard of a couple of months ago has become the biggest threat to the world, to world peace, and the biggest sponsor of state sponsor of terrorism. All that kind of BS. You guys are a bit lucky because you hear multiple sources of information, but like where in my corner of the woods, where unfortunately Western media still has a very strong stranglehold, and even the so-called local media is also funded from Washington. You hear like Nigerians and Africans saying things like this all the time. Oh, Iran is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism. That is not that statement did not come out of a Nigerian head. That statement is US foreign policy, right? But you hear it parroted. If literally just go through Nigerian Twitter, like when you're less busy, go through my posts. Go through the hidden replies. Nowadays I hide and block a lot of people because I'm not interested in.
Yeah, I've been seeing it, David. It's great. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. If you guys don't mind, on that note, I actually do. I want you to respond to something, Dave. I saw this video earlier. I want to kind of end the stream on this because I saw this video and it's been living rent free in my mind ever since I've seen it, where they were explaining how the West brainwashed many Christians in Africa into supporting Zionism. So just for a second,
Yeah.
I'm gonna play the video. I want to play a little bit of it, and I just want you to respond for a second time.
Africa has about 700 million Christians. A large number of them support Israel, or at least are sympathetic to the ideology of Zionism. Why is Christian Zionism in Africa so strong? African Stream spoke to retired Anglican minister Stephen Sizer, author of the book Christian Zionism, Roadmap to Armageddon, and founder of the Peacemaker Trust, for more insight into this phenomenon.
Christian Zionism is dominant in America, and that's why it's dominant in Africa.
Listen to this.
Because sadly, many
Listen.
churches in Africa are dependent on funding from churches in America.
This is one of the moments I'm like, what the fuck? David, do you have any response to this? Because I'm learning, I was seeing this like, what? Christian Zionism in Africa? I'm watching this video.
Oh, yeah.
I had to get your.
Oh
I had
yeah,
to get
that absolutely is a thing. My late dad, who died in 2017, who had never been to Israel before in his life, who had never been to the Middle East before in his life, was a Zionist.
Oh my fucking
because
God.
Oh yeah, it's very much a thing. Because according to the version of Christianity that he believed in, Israel was a they were chosen people of God. And you might be surprised to find out that a lot of Nigerian Christians don't know that the biblical entity of Israel and the political state of Israel, which was founded in 1948, have nothing to do with each other. They're completely different
I
things.
wouldn't be surprised about that at all, actually. I feel like most
a lot of Nigerians have no idea.
Most Black Zionists in America are like that.
Yeah, so they genuinely think that there's been this contiguous entity known as Israel, which has always existed, and that's that the bunch of white people in Tel Aviv are the Israelis of antiquity. They really do think that, So that's where I remember I used to listen to my dad, and I was a kid, so there are things I couldn't say, but it just struck me as incredibly insane. He would say things like, so we'd be reading like the Old Testament. And where you're seeing the God of the Old Testament saying like really genocidal stuff, dash the heads of their sons against the rocks, kill and take their daughters for your own, all that kind of shit. And my dad used to say things like, that's why even till to date, you can see that God is still on the side of the Israelites, of the people in Israel, the Israelis, that even, the people, the fight they have in Gaza and in the West Bank. That's why, something that basically the long and short of what he was saying was essentially God has a massive blind spot when it comes to Israel. Israel has a giant get out of jail free card.
That's crazy.
You might, he was not an outlier. He was not an outlier. There are a lot of Nigerian Christians who believe such things. Till now, as we speak.
I'll play just one more part. Nick, hold that thought. I want you to respond to it.
Real quick, Nick. Dave, you know what you should hit him with? The Bible said the devil rules earth. Right? Maybe that's because that would probably be a better explanation biblically as to why Israel continues to get away with shit that will land you in hell, because the devil rules earth. Right? And then that's how it goes. But yeah, no, that's crazy. That's some crazy shit.
I'm gonna show you guys just one more thing, and Nick, you can respond to that while I'm about to show you guys, because they're gonna show you the level of corruption and how the ruling class uses religion to manipulate the masses, as we all know. So I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then Nico, you can respond to it, and Dave, you can respond as well if you have any last things.
To this phenomenon.
Christian Zionism is dominant in America, and that's why it's dominant in Africa. Because sadly, many churches in Africa are dependent on funding from churches in America. And to be cynical, forgive me, if I can get money for my church from a particular church in America or a denomination in America, I'm more likely to get that support if I align my theology with their theology.
You see, that's the last thing I want to show you guys, because look at how the corruption works. So African churches are preaching a bastardized, satanic version of Christianity, not because they're connected to God or not because of religion, but because they can get more money from the United States who also believe in Christian Zionism. That's wild. But Nico, I want to show that last part before I get you in. Any thoughts on this? And David, we can wrap up after this video. I just had to show David that and get his response. I saw this before the stream. My mind was blown. I guess I had a blind spot. I didn't know the Christian Zionism problem in Africa. But it makes my fucking blood boil, man. But
Yeah.
Nico, any final thoughts on David?
There's another way that Western colonialists control Africans. Like that's another avenue. It's not like the only method they've used, whether it be Christian Zionism, whether it be access to the Western economy, whether it be through Western propagandized education. Like there are various methods that they use to control Africans so that Africans don't just be Africans. Like they're just not their own. But I mean, it happens here. It happens in Brazil. There are like the Afro-Brazilians oftentimes practice African religions. I would probably argue damn near more than like your average Nigerian would practice.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy, right?
Yep.
Like generally out here, if you see somebody who is Christian, 9 times out of 10, they're white Brazilians. Like it's not coincidental, but it's because the influence isn't the influence of Christian Zionism on the Black culture actually doesn't reach Black people here. There's various reasons for that, but it's sad, but it's not unexpected. But that also shows you how important the influence of the Western Empire is on Africa for them to maintain their power, right? Because why would you even care if Africans are Zionists? Literally,
Exactly.
why would you even care? Because it's Africa. It's also that important. The countries that they believe that have population that they believe, or rather the countries that have resources that they believe are important to the empire and to Zionism, that have something to contribute to Zionism, those are the countries that they target, and those are the people that they target. Otherwise, they would just leave them alone. So I also want to say too, like what Dave was talking about as far as the articles and how they only seem to align even when they're from two different sides of the aisle. They always seem to align when it comes to war. I remember when I was in debate, and my debate coach, so he was a conservative. I actually didn't know he was conservative until I graduated high school, but he would always have me read these articles, and he would actually never tell me which side that they were leaning. And he would just ask me like, "Oh, do you feel like this is liberal leading or conservative leading?" And I would tell him. And then after a while, I saw this pattern that was emerging when it came to anything regarding Iraq or Afghanistan. And I asked him, I said, and I'm new to politics at this point, right? My introduction to politics was debate. And I asked him yo, I have a question. Why the hell is it you always ask me in this article, are these people generally write liberal articles? These people generally write conservative articles. But why the hell every time they talk about Iraq or Afghanistan, it's exactly the same? He was like, now you understand.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He was like, you get it now. I do I have to explain to you really? He was like, because that's the one thing they always agree on. He said, he deliberately didn't tell me because he wanted to know if it was like part of my debate training, but like he wanted to see if I could see the pattern because I recognized which articles or which publications fell to which ideology. But like David said, I would see something where sometimes the headline was almost identical or the opening paragraph was almost identical, or you would see something copied directly out of Newsweek and like posted in the New York Times, like word for word. And I'm like, that's weird. And he was like, now you got to figure out why that is. And that was whenever I became staunchly anti-war. Like, I was like, these people are lying. Basically, he's like, he said, if they're all agreeing, they're all lying.
Yeah, well said. David, any final thoughts? I greatly enjoyed y'all. I'm sorry keeping you guys long today, but Nico, you already know it's impossible for us to do a show. It's impossible for me and Nico to do a show less than 90 minutes. Then you throw David in there? No way. David, any final thoughts, man? I greatly enjoyed the stream, my brothers.
Yeah, just reinforcing the point of cultural imperialism using religion. I'm just going to drop this tidbit here that you may or may not be aware of. So I'm sure you've seen this universally popular viral video from Uganda where the guy's like, "Why are you gay?"
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, "Who says I'm gay? You are gay." Right. Now, later on in that interview, when this crazy pastor guy comes in with a bunch of vegetables and starts eating them on air, Pastor Martin Semper, that guy gets his funding from an American Christian conservative group. So those are the people who are actually behind that thing, because the whole point of that performance and the whole point of that TV interview, which you may not know, was that at that time there was a debate in Uganda about whether to criminalize homosexuality or not. And it was as a direct result of the American church's involvement that Uganda passed the bill criminalizing homosexuality. Now, I generally don't really have a horse in this race, but my perspective on this is whether or not you agree with the criminalization of homosexuality, the issue is, why is an American religious lobby group having the power to push legislation halfway around the world in another continent? And I guess that says it all.
Yeah. We definitely got to do this again. I would love to make this a regular series, I don't know, monthly or so.
For sure.
Yeah, because this panel is too powerful. I have the link to our hotspot on a hotspot page link in our description. Once again, I have a hotspot video today coming out about how Fox News is essentially writing White House foreign policy. The dude, motherfucker hired Tulsi Gabbard, and a ton of people got cited, and he's not even using her. He benched her immediately.
Bro,
so I have later. Nico, what topic do you do today?
About how basically they allow their defenses to be depleted on purpose, because this will be the first time in the history of the Iron Dome that we didn't immediately rearm them after they were forced to use it, and that they are doing it on purpose as a justification to help us enter the war. Like it's to get galvanization from the American people, because they know Trump's not going to do it necessarily, or at least it will take longer if America is not behind it, because they're obviously worried about midterms, like that it's incoming. Like they're always thinking about every 2 years. And so, it looks like they're allowing themselves to be, looks like Netanyahu specifically is literally putting Israel in a cage and letting his people being blown to pieces to get U.S. to support them going to war. But the problem is, once again, I can't even give my thoughts and prayers, y'all, because I use all of them up when y'all were bombing the shit out of Palestine. So
make sure y'all check out, if you're not following the hotspot, if you're subscribed to RBN, what are you doing? The fuck you doing? So I got a link to the description. Make sure you guys follow David Hudayan from the West Africa Weekly as well. Thank you guys for watching.
Real talk. What are y'all? Yeah, what are y'all doing, bro? Y'all know me. People be out there be sending me little. I ain't gonna say no names, but people be sending me out. It's like sneaky DMs, bro. Y'all are doing so great. Like these big old pages. And I'm like,
bitch.
The video, bro. We appreciate you. Like what you? Why are you sneaking? It's just retweet it. Like it's weird, dog. You know, people. It's weird. Hey. I will say, because it's not really said that much, but like this type of content being produced by 3 black dudes is not common. And I feel like some people have reservations about sharing our content and helping us grow, specifically because of that. Because
that's a conversation, my brother. That's a conversation. But what I said, we gotta talk behind the scenes, because we definitely gotta make this a series. Because I said Hotspot Brothers Live episode 1, maybe episode 2 we get a better title for what this series is gonna be called. But hopefully you guys enjoy the stream. I will be back next week. I'm gonna take this weekend off if you guys don't mind. We had a lot of bangers this week.
Thank you guys. Make sure I gotta feel next week is about to be wild for us, dog. Hey, 10 to 12 days, y'all. That's what, and that was 2 days ago. I think they said that the Israeli Times said 10 to 12 days until they can no longer hold off the waves of Iran's rockets. So
Nico, you already know I'm hitting you up, brother. You already know I'm hitting you up. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care, y'all.